Will a Diet Coke or a sugar-free Monster break your fast? Are you curious? Hey team, Mike here from After 40 Fitness and after40fitness.ca. Had a great question come in today in a comment on a previous video from Penny. Penny asked if a Diet Coke or a sugar-free Monster will break her fast. Great question, and I'm happy to put that into a video and give you my thoughts on the topic. So that just goes to show, guys, good comments or an email to Mike at after40fitness.ca could result in a video just like this based on your topic and based on your question. If you haven't subscribed yet, or this is your first time to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell icon and select all. Love to have you as part of the community, and don't forget about these kind of comments and questions that result in a video like Penny's. So Penny asked that very question: will a Diet Coke or a sugar-free Monster knock her out of her fast? And that's a topic that comes up so often. If you're in the keto or carnivore space, you know that's a topic that's asked in the forums and social media, Facebook for crying out loud, every day. And at the end of the day, you may agree, disagree. That's entirely your prerogative. It is your journey, just like my journey is mine. And I think that when I look at the answers and the conjecture, the opinions that are on social media today, one thing is missing right away. It depends on what kind of a fast you're doing. It depends on your definition of a fast. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, see, I think that we have a problem in the keto and carnivore space that we automatically, when we hear the word fast, we assume that person's talking about a water-only fast. I see it every day in comments. Well, it's only water. You can only have water, 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 water. Well, who said? Who said that's the only kind of fast? See, because off the top of my head, as I was preparing this deck, I thought I can name 4 or 5, 6 different kinds of fast. For example, there is the standard water-only fast, for sure. How about a dry fast? Have you ever thought about a dry fast? Have you ever gone 24 hours? Thomas DeLauer and another really good source called Seam Land. Seam Land is his name. Seam is his first name. Both of those two gents have done some analysis on the risks versus the rewards, the pros versus the cons of a dry fast. And I'll tell you something, hermetically, there are some really good things to be acquired from dry fasting, from an acute phase of 24 hours, even 36 hours of zero water. What happens in the body is remarkable. You'd be blown away. Do some research. I'll put some links down below. Okay, but on top of those two, have you ever heard of a fat fast? A fat fast. I kid you not, there are doctors recommending 800 or 1,000 calories a day, 100% derived from fat. How about a PSMF? Does that ring a bell? That acronym stands for a protein-sparing modified fast. It's the opposite, polar opposite of a fat fast. It's where for a day or 2 days at a time, you do nothing but ingest protein. As close to zero carb and zero fat as is physically possible, but you try to get, in my case, 250 grams a day of protein. Protein-sparing modified fast. And the methodology behind it is that on any fast, while you'll hear this term a lot, you'll hear protein-sparing. You ever heard that in Thomas DeLauer, Dr. Berg, Dr. Bear will talk about how fasting, especially intermittent fasting in the short term, less than a day, is protein sparing. You know why they say that, protein sparing? Because it's not protein proof. It's protein sparing. Just like I have a watch. It's a really nice watch. And it's water resistant. You know what they don't say anymore? It's not waterproof. It's water resistant. What does that mean? That means at some point water will get in it. Okay? Protein sparing spares protein, but it is not protein proof. PSMF does its best, because you're ingesting 200 to 250 grams of protein per day, to as close to eliminate muscle loss that comes from other forms of fasting as is physically possible. Another form of fasting, granted, and all the calories in it come from protein. How about a clean? This is probably, a clean fast is the most common definition that we talk about in social media, even though I don't think anybody ever calls it clean except for air quoting me. I like to call it the clean fast, because we allow more than just water. We allow things that we think are clean that don't harm our fast. Now, on top of what type of fast you're doing, I personally ask Penny, well, it also depends on what your goals are. Why are you fasting? Now, in her case, it was 100% to lose fat. A clean fast for me could be anything that doesn't impact autophagy, even if it has calories, immaterial, as long as it doesn't impact autophagy. So what I wanted to do was, I thought, on top of these fasts, these aren't the only ones, by the way. There are obviously juice fasts and celery and carrot fasts and potato fasts and stupid number of fasts. The word fast can be applied to anything. In fact, I'm going to digress right now. Some of you are thinking, no, those are fasts. If you put anything in your mouth other than water, you're not fasting. Just for me, see the definition, define fasting. There it is right there. Have a look at this. Notice what this says. Fast number 2 is to abstain from all or, notice, some kinds of food or drink. Isn't that interesting? Just like PSMF is nothing but protein, and a fat fast is nothing but fat. A dry fast is nothing, a water fast is water only. So it's really interesting how we can play with the words. So what I'm going to do for you is let's have some fun. Let's put up a whole bunch of ingredients, a whole bunch of liquids. Oddly enough, it's always liquid, right? We don't say, hey, can I have a potato on my fast? It always seems to be liquids. And let's compare them against these 5 fasting types. And again, fasting types doesn't refer to time-restricted eating or IF. I'm actually more partial to 18-6. I like to eat in a 6-hour window. I have my 2.5 meals in a 6-hour window, my 2,300 calories a day. And that's what I'm partial to. You can decide on yours, whether it's 20 and 4, could be OMAD. But let's compare to these 5 only: dry, water, fat, PSMF, and clean. And let's see where the following liquids rank. Let's start with water. Now, as you can see, depending on your fast, how could you not ask? Depends. If I said to you, does water break my fast? I'll bet you 99.99% of you would say, no, water doesn't break a fast. Well, if I was doing a dry fast, it sure as hell does. Right? Interesting. You have to ask. Before you can answer, you have to ask, what fast are you doing? How about coffee and tea? Coffee and tea is considered very safe. It's considered very clean, but it would break a water only or a dry fast, obviously. I'm really going to skip over fat and PSMF unless something is truly pertaining to them. And let's really talk about clean. So coffee and tea, as well as lemon and lime juice, a little splash in your water, and perhaps even ACV, are always talked about in the premise or the concept of a clean fast. Things you can add to water, but still be in a clean fast. And all 3 of those do come with a little bit of calories. You need to be aware. None of those are calorie free. 3 or 4 calories in a cup of coffee or tea, 7, 8, 10, depending on how much of a squirt of lime or lemon juice in your water. ACV, no less. But the reason that we consider these to be okay in a clean fast is because of the benefits they bring. These are awesome ingredients. What they do for us, coffee and tea in particular, the polyphenols in coffee, it promotes autophagy. It promotes mobilization of fat, oxidation of fat. It's really good. Lemon lime, so good for our digestive systems, emptying of the intestines and bowels, a blood clean. There's so many good things that come. And ACV, man, I can do a whole video just on how much, when to take it, and the benefits of ACV. They're plentiful. So much so that we consider the few calories, the carb or 2 in a serving of each of those 3 items to be so negligible, so moot as to not impact the body at all negatively, but the benefits that come along with those, do it. Don't even hesitate and just chalk it up to a nice clean fast. And if someone says, but that's not clean, that's not really truly fasting safe, in their head, that's okay. Forgive them. They're thinking water only, or dry for that matter. Okay. How about bone broth? I think bone broth is one of those ones that gets asked about a lot because it truly is confusing. We're not sure. Obviously, it's a protein. It comes with amino acids, so it's obviously going to be good under PSMF. But clean, I personally think it's okay. But you'll notice I left a question mark because it's up to you. This is your definition, your journey of a clean fast. However, if I was asked about bone broth, I would say absolutely enjoy it. Now, the hesitation is because it is understood by most people, and it's taught by diet and keto and carnivore gurus, that bone broth is made up of amino acids, and amino acids are insulinic. Right? They'll have an insulin impact based on research. However, I'm going to draw your attention that there is 0 research showing an insulinic response to amino acids in ketonians and carnivores. None. If you go find a study that shows that amino acids are insulinic, I promise you the participants are followers of a SAD diet. Chances are they're also obese, just so you know. It seems the studies I find more often than not have obese SAD followers, Standard American Diet, not ketonians. In fact, Dr. Ben Bikman, I'll put a link down below, did a video podcast where he showed the only study I've ever seen of its kind. He showed that the impact of amino acids on a ketonian or carnivore is negligible, 0. It really is. There was no change to their ketone level, to their fat burning mode. And the reason for that is, think about it for a second. If you and I are fasted, let's say we're 12 hours into a fast, and our ketones are up and our glucose has flatlined at whatever is baseline for you. For me, it's 80, right? Right around 80 milligrams per deciliter is my 80, 82 is my baseline. Okay, and that's where I hover. So let's suppose for a second I sip some bone broth, and let's suppose for a second that the amino acids in it had an insulinic effect. You know, like I do, there are two impacts. We can't test for insulin at home yet, but my Keto Mojo or whatever device you're using to test your serum levels can detect two things, both of which are negatively impacted by insulin. Do you know what they are? I hope you're thinking glucose and ketones. Insulin has a direct impact on glucose and ketones. It makes both plummet. Okay, so if I take some amino acids or a whey smoothie, whey isolate being the best one, or any form of protein, amino acids, you would expect that if there's an insulinic impact, my ketone level should plummet because I'm going to get kicked out. Insulin is the nemesis of ketosis, as well as insulin's impact on serum glucose is to partition it into storage. Take that glucose out of the bloodstream, move it into muscle glycogen, or for that matter, into adipose fat for storage. Either one of those. And yet, not one study, not on me, not on my friends, no one has been able to ingest bone broth or whey isolate and show me either of those two things happening. We can't afford it. Our body is too smart to allow an insulinic response to amino acids like in bone broth, okay? Because we'd go hypoglycemic. The body's too smart for that. It can't let that happen. So anyway, we can talk about that. I will put the link down to Ben Bikman's work. He's phenomenal in this space, and he's a research scientist. He explains it better than anybody. So that's why I put yes for me. You can decide for you. If you truly still live in fear of a little bit of an insulinic impact from amino acids, you can leave out the bone broth. Fair enough? To Penny's question, diet bevies. Obviously safe for a fat and a PSMF, but for clean, I also think they're okay for a clean fast. The reason for that is because diet beverages made with sucrose or aspartame in particular, stevia is the same, 0 carb, 0 calorie. Right? 0 carb, 0 calorie. To me, the very definition of fasting safe. However, if carbs and calories is not your barometer, or if your barometer is insulin, again, this is where the question mark comes in, just like above with the amino acids. There are people who think, okay, but aspartame and sucralose and just the sweet taste on your tongue, all that causes an insulinic response. Again, not one study have I ever seen in 2 decades of researching this topic, have I ever seen ketonians or carnivores have an insulinic response to aspartame, to sucralose, to stevia, to erythritol, to monk. Never, not one. If you can please find, I'm intrigued. I'm a student of this. I have not seen one study yet. Okay, so until that happens, here's what I know to be true. Again, doing studies on myself and on my clients. Here's what I like to do. I'll say, guys, gather around. Let's do a test today. Let's all get a baseline serum glucose and ketone. So let's say, for example, last time I did this, I had a serum ketone of 1.1 millimole, and I had right on 82, right, my usual 82 flatlined at my baseline for glucose, and 5 of us put back a sugar-free monster, right? So sucralose and 100 milligrams of sucralose. I had 2, right? Fast canned them, 2 of them in a row, because I really wanted to see if I could see an insulinic impact to either my glucose or to my ketones from having 2 cans, right? So now I'm buzzed, I'm wired, woo! All right, I'm seeing colors. It's awesome. And every 5 minutes for the next hour, it costs us each like $20 in strips. Every 5 minutes for the next hour, we're testing ketones and glucose. And none of us had an insulinic response. None of us had any proof that having, in my case, 2 sugar-free monsters back-to-back had any impact. So now I turned, again, now to Penny and say, Penny, diet beverages is your call. Just so you know, they are the definition of fasting safe. Okay, there's 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 0 calories, and I don't believe there's ever been proven, ever, pure conjecture, but I don't believe there's ever been a study that shows that you and I can expect an insulinic response. In fact, I did a video, and I'll put it down below as well, where Dr. Barry used a study using, again, obese people who are followers of a SAD diet to try to show that there was an insulinic response to just the taste of something sweet using sucralose. And yet, even in that group of obese people, all of which were insulin resistant, all of which were followers of a SAD diet, only 40% had any kind of a noticeable increase in insulin. It certainly wasn't a spike. Okay, don't call it a spike if it goes from, if the delta is 2. Right? You need a delta. If you're resting flat, fasted, insulin level, let's say it's 15 or 16, and it goes from 16 to 18, that is not the definition of a spike. You need to look up the definition of the word spike before you use that word again. It is a change by order of magnitude. Meaning, truly, to be a spike, if your fasting insulin level is 16, it needs to bump to 32. Now you have a spike. That's a change in order of magnitude. Going from 16 to 18 is a negligible impact at best, but only 40% of the obese people, standard American followers of a diet, only 40% of them had even that little bump up, okay? So I haven't seen any evidence at all of any of the sort in ketonians or carnivores. So I feel so comfortable turning to Penny and say, Penny, truly it's your call, but just so you know, your fast is safe, all right? So I hope that made sense. That's how I like to go through a bit more of a qualified or caveated discussion about what does or doesn't break a fast, because it really depends. As you can see, everything I listed here to me is safe in a clean fast. One more topic, and that is Bulletproof coffee. Now, I think you would agree Bulletproof coffee being very high in fat is obviously good in a fat-only diet, not good in a PSMF. However, I put no with a question mark for clean because I personally have an issue with the number of calories, even though Bulletproof coffee does not impact insulin. So again, there's my gauge. Here's where I even have a little bit of controversy in my own head. The fats that are in Bulletproof, MCT oil, coconut oil, maybe a little bit of ghee or butter, doesn't impact insulin. At best, as we talked about, not a spike, maybe a little negligible impact, not enough to stop autophagy, not enough certainly to stop fat burning. However, it is about probably on average between 200 and 250 calories in a Bulletproof coffee. I have an issue calling that not food. Right? So even though it meets my standard of not impacting insulin, therefore not impacting autophagy and not stopping fat burning, I just personally, hence the X, is why I don't personally take Bulletproof coffee on my fast. But I'll leave a question mark for you, because if you truly use autophagy and fat burning and insulin as your barometer, you could feel safe getting away with Bulletproof coffee. Okay, let's touch on a couple of real quick ones that aren't quite so standard. BCAAs, exactly for the same reason we talked about already with whey and with bone broth. They are okay. Obviously okay in a PSMF, also okay in a clean fast, because there is no proof that they spike insulin. There's negligible, if any, calories, and the calories come from protein, which is not an energy source. I feel safe in saying yes, because I personally don't have an insulin response from BCAAs. So if I feel like having them when I'm working out, God bless, I do. How about pre-workouts? Unless it's got a sweetener in it that spikes glucose, like sugar, or like one of the M's, maltodextrin, maltitol, maltose. Okay, those you'd want to avoid. But if your pre-workout is sweetened with, say, sucralose or ACE-K or aspartame, I don't think that exists. But anyway, sucralose being by far the most common, then you know you're good. You go ahead and enjoy it. It's a stimulant at best, but provides no calories. And if that's the case, it is clean. Supplements, could do a whole video on supplements. I personally take a boatload, like 10 a day. And the reason for that is not so much because I think I'm deficit, but to me it's insurance. It's my money. I don't mind spending a few dollars a day on insurance. I plan on living, I have a bet with my son that I'm going to live to 105. So in order to make that happen, I want to be able to at 104 look back and go, man, thank God I took the MSM and glucosamine. Thank goodness I was in CoQ10. I'm so glad I took some ALA along with my vitamin K2. So anyway, we could talk about that in another video, but I do take a lot of supplements, and again, just as insurance. I don't believe they're 100% needed. I don't know, but to me, it's worth the money. I buy insurance. I hope you do too. I have life insurance. I have critical illness. I have supplement insurance too. Electrolytes, always, obviously only in a dry and a water only fast would they be out. Otherwise, please get your electrolytes in you, including salt. And lastly, energy drinks for the exact same reason. Energy drinks go right back to what we talked about with the sugar-free bevies that Penny asked about, same with BCAAs. Unless you can prove to yourself, or you just want to live in fear and paranoia that a little bit of caffeine or the sucralose in an energy drink causes you grief, causes you to have a spike in insulin, I don't live in fear of any of that. I don't live in fear of that because, again, I've proven that with energy drinks and soft drinks that I don't have an insulinic response, and I believe that went away shortly after becoming keto. Actually, keto first and carnivore second is when I really began to test to see the impact. Right? When I went zero carb, I thought that's a good time to test energy drinks and Diet Cokes to see if I have any kind of an insulinic response, since you would think at that point I'm most susceptible, I'm most sensitive to any impact when I'm zero carb, and yet none. No plummeting glucose, no plummeting insulin. On that note, folks, I hope that made sense. You can see how I like to apply a little bit of critical thinking and make sure I always answer with it depends and ask a couple questions. What kind of fast are you doing? What are your goals? And then only then can we safely give a defined answer about whether something is suggested or not. And again, that's all I give as a recommendation. At the end of this, if you disagree, God bless. It's your journey, but don't hesitate. Please put your comments on this, your feedback, as well as any questions you'd like to see be made into a video like this. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. And on that note, we'll see you in the next one.